I started my business when I was in third year. Say yes to each and everything your client says. So I used to say, हाँ ये भी हो जाएगा, ये भी हो जाएगा, ये भी हो जाएगा. Yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
But later on, it used to take a toll on me because that was again months of rework.
Correct.
And then COVID hit. So both the businesses went down because of COVID. So I started my own company where I was doing both. So for example, I worked with Maruti and Mahindra.
What was your experience? Because it was just the opposite.
It was a 2.5 million square feet project.
Correct.
So architects who would adopt all of these technologies today are going to be the architects of future.
Hi Rishikesh, I'm really glad to meet you. I think I've been stalking you and I've sent you messages on Instagram and LinkedIn because I was fascinated about your work. And I've been also researching about AR and VR and how it can be used in real estate. So it's really helpful to meet you now so that we can ask these questions and everybody can also get like information out of this.
Absolutely.
I would just, so
Happy
let's
to
go
be
back to your journey first. Like even before like AR and VR happened, you're an architect. So how did the architecture happen and how did you stumble upon AR and VR? Because it's not very natural for an architect, especially in India, to like just start doing AR and VR full time rather than being an architect and doing
Correct. I think for me, I was always good at design. That I always knew. But back when I was growing up, I was always fascinated with computers and what they can do. Because the sort of potential that computers had even back then, I think it really made me curious about everything and how it functions. Personally, I've done my AutoCAD, CorelDRAW, all of these courses when I was in 7th standard. When I didn't even know.
Are you serious?
Yeah, when I didn't even know what AutoCAD is used for. I had no idea that we need to create floor plans to create buildings.
This is insane.
Right. So I had a software sort of background, and I used to pick up these softwares very fast. It was very easy for me. It came very natural. So that's how it started. When I was practicing my architecture with a firm in Thane, I used to sort of do my own research about newer workflows and all, because I have that sort of problem solving mind, where my mind always works towards how to get this better, or how to get this done faster, things like that. So I stumbled upon BIM. I started doing BIM. Along with BIM, I also started using VR, because that was also a part of this entire ecosystem, right? So if you can automate your workflows, if you can make 3Ds and 2Ds from a single software instead of you using multiple softwares to render a different software and create AutoCAD drawings in different software. So why not bring that together while you are creating your 3D model, your drawings are also created simultaneously. So that was the approach that we took. Once we cracked that particular software, we turned the entire office from a CAD office to a BIM office.
Sure, I think I wanted to ask you this question because this is not a very regular thing that an architecture office turns into a software intensive research sort of thing, right? Like, because you guys are doing a lot of research also or side by side when you're talking about all of this. So tell me more about like how the environment was, how the people also were, because that's very interesting.
I think the credit goes to my then boss, Mr. Ajay Tonpe, because he really saw that potential in me and he gave me that work. That was, I really credit him for that even today. So he actually helped me out. He saw my potential. Okay, I started off with SketchUp. I started off doing BIM in SketchUp. That was my first thing. Yeah, nobody used to do that. I was a very, very advanced SketchUp user back then. Once I finished that, we saw certain limitations there. That was the reason we started experimenting newer softwares. And then we stumbled upon ArchiCAD. So ArchiCAD was our choice of software, because even the UI of ArchiCAD is very easy to understand. Whereas Revit, we tried Revit as well, but Revit is very technical. It's very hard to understand.
A little more complex.
it's made for engineers. It's
Correct.
not made for architects, right? But ArchiCAD is made for architects. So all of the UI is very easy on the eyes to look at from a designer's perspective.
It's very similar to Revit also, no?
The platform is similar, but the UI is very different.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right.
So the way you work in ArchiCAD is very simple. It goes with your natural instinct.
Okay.
Right. So that is one aspect. And as we, tested more and more softwares, this is what we ended up with.
Okay.
Once we did that, we also started experimenting with VR. That's when I stumbled upon VR. So I was the guy in the office, the tech guy. I used to handle softwares. I used to also handle the servers as well in the office.
Oh wow.
I was an architect and I was handling servers as well. So I was just inclined towards that. One fine day, I asked this question to myself that, oh, I am good at this. Do I want to get into this full time? And it was a conscious choice. For days, I was so confused. Like, I remember for an entire week, I was sitting like this. What do I do? Because design, as an architect, you are taught that design is first love.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It has to be pure.
Yeah, it is pure, right? Once you are in architecture, then you love architecture, you love design, you love creativity. And from there, coming back to technology was a bit hard for me. But I took that leap of faith. I said, okay, if I am really good at this and if no one else is doing this, might as well do it. So I took that decision, okay, I want to get into technology, but I don't want to leave architecture. I want to support the architectural real estate community by creating newer work tools, newer workflows, innovative new things which people have not thought about. That's how I started.
The next thing I would want to know from you is like, you didn't only like just explore things, you made a business out of it, right? Yeah. That takes another set of skills. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so my dad is an entrepreneur. So I have had a little bit of that in me. He's always pushed me to do things that I was not comfortable with. He used to push me to go to site, handle people. When I was in third year of my college, I started my own interior design when I was in third year, when I didn't know shit. So I've done very, very stupid mistakes in life. I think that's how you learn. There are two ways to learn. You either make mistakes and learn from it, or you learn from other people's mistakes. There are only two ways to learn. I think I fall in the first category.
I think that's the best way to learn. I am not sure if you can learn from somebody else's mistake. I am not that person.
I think that's a faster way to learn.
I'm sure there are smarter people.
Yes.
But I don't fall into that category as well. I'm like, I will just do mine. And either I'll learn from it or I'll make bigger blunders, but that's mine.
Correct. And I need to experience it firsthand, only then I'll understand its impact.
Correct. Correct.
That's how I learned.
Yeah, so the business part, we are still getting back to it.
Yeah. So I started doing that. I started my business when I was in third year of college. I started taking contracts for interior design. That's where I started understanding how to handle manpower, how to manage your time, because I was also doing my studies and I was also working as a interior designer back then. I also learned about how to speak with clients. That's very important. How you convince clients. It took me a while to understand, okay, you don't have to say yes to each and everything your client says, because initially there was nobody to guide me. So I used to say, ye bhi ho jayega, ye bhi ho jayega, ye bhi ho jayega. Yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
But later on, it used to take a toll on me, because that was again months of rework.
Correct.
Right. So eventually I learned that as well. But yes, I did that. As I said, I was working with this firm in Thane. Once that got over, what I did is I decided, okay, if I have this knowledge, I want to share it with everyone. So I started my own consultancy. So once I knew that, okay, if I can convert this particular office into a BIM office, I can do that. I can replicate that same scenario with other offices. So I started doing that. Did that for a couple of years. Then COVID hit. That's when the entire business, started falling. Now, while I was doing this, converting offices, I also got another opportunity from a company called 360 Experience. This company was into AR VR services. So they used to create virtual tours of a building which is already constructed.
Okay.
So I joined them as a director. Once I joined there, I started a new workflow which is pre-construction. That company was only focused on post-construction. The project that was already built, they used to go shoot 360 images and then create a walkthrough, a virtual tour of that product.
Got it.
Since I joined there, we also started creating pre-construction. Like I used to 3D model this entire building,
right?
And then we used to create.
That would help realtors a lot, right?
Absolutely, because it not only gives you only a single frame of your project, but it gives you you can see your project in the entirety.
So yeah, I think you were doing a lot of things back then in your office, and then you took over this whole business route, right? Like entrepreneurship. How did that happen?
I basically wanted to provide knowledge that I had to everyone. So that was the core idea. I did not think that I wanted to start a business or something, but the underlying idea was, okay, if I have certain sort of knowledge which can actually benefit multiple organizations, why not do it? And that was where it started. And while I was doing my BIM, consulting BIM for other offices, I also got an opportunity to work with a company which was predominantly doing real estate. What they were trying to do is they had a product which was virtual tour. Now everyone is they knows what a virtual tour is, right? It's like a Google Street View where you have 360 photos from different standpoints. So you can actually click on next, and you can actually go to that particular spot. Like for example, if I have a photo from here, I click on the next hotspot, I directly go there. So it feels like you are actually walking in the space and you are looking at the entirety of the project, not just one photo.
Correct.
Right. So they were doing it for post-construction projects. Like for example, Lodha, if the building is already constructed, they would do is they would go shoot the apartment. Like they were predominantly doing apartments, right? So they would shoot the apartment, convert it into a virtual tour package. They would give an online link to these Lodha guys, and then this link was used for sales and marketing purposes.
Okay.
Right. Since I entered there, I also started doing pre-construction projects because I had the capability to do 3D visualization as well. So did that for multiple clients over there. Not just that, we also started building different industries, different experiences for different industries. So for example, I worked with Maruti and Mahindra, where we created a car configurator. So for example, if you go to a sales office for a car dealership, you can see the car only if it's available there. You can't see colors. There's just a brochure where you can see just a tiny color ka segment.
Correct.
Or you could Google it, right?
Correct.
But what if you want to change tires? You want to change the color of the body or something like that. Or if you want to add some graphics to the body.
But do you also do interiors of the car being changed, or mostly the exterior part?
The project was more concerned towards exterior.
Correct. But the same thing can be applied to the interiors as well.
Correct. So the technology remains the same. I used to use similar softwares. Initially, I started off with Unreal Engine. Even in this, I was working with Unreal Engine only.
Right.
The only difference was the product was different. Initially, I was working with the same product, same tools, but for real estate. Now I was working for cars, right? The underlying function of the product was same, like configuration,
Hmm.
right? So after I worked there for about 2 years, and then COVID hit. So both the businesses went down because of COVID, right? Uh, During COVID, I wanted to merge these two entities together because it was very uh, draining for me, like to go here and there and manage multiple
Correct.
things. So I started my own company where I was doing both BIM as well as visualization, interaction design, AR, VR stuff, all of that. So that's where Mothership come into picture.
Acha. Right. So before we go to Mothership, I would want to ask you, there was one thing which you mentioned is like you want to teach people around you. You had this whole information, like a new knowledge which you had gained. But in my experience, because even when I had come back and I wanted to be like, you know what, like now I'm going to be this person who can educate and be like this, because I'm a hyperactive and also like very excited about everything. I was like, okay, everybody's going to love this. And that's the kind of response I'm going to get. What was your experience? Because it was just the opposite. What happened when you start talking about anything new to people in the industry?
I think when the point that I entered the industry, virtual tours were kind of a thing. So people were already curious about these things, right? Meta was there, metaverse is coming up, VR is coming up. It's just that rise of VR, where people are excited about trying new technologies. So the hype was already there, and I was riding on the hype.
Right. It was the right time, right place.
Correct. So I think the point that I entered the industry is very crucial because that's what propelled my, product even more.
Correct.
Yeah. Also, the sort of work we used to do, there were other people doing it, but the sort of packaging that we did, the sort of branding that we did,
oh yeah, I've seen.
That's where it stood out. Yeah. That's why we got bigger clients like Lodha, Rustamji, all of these.
Right. But again, like going back to understanding how people took it, one is that you went to the real estate part of it. I think they are still more experimental in terms of understanding on marketing and sales. Right. But how was the response in architecture industry for this? Did you go to architects as well?
I started off with architects. So initially, when I used to do BIM and all of this, architects was the primary client for me, right? Because real estate people don't need BIM as such.
Correct.
Architects want BIM.
Yeah.
So there I saw, but the problem with architects is that they want everything internal. They won't give these sort of
consultancies.
They don't want it, right?
I feel like it's very less collaborative and very rigid sometimes. I don't want to talk about like everybody here, but few of them are like the older or longer lived architecture firms. They have a set of rules or like setup done, and very few of them are ready to evolve from that because they already have like set of clientele, which is fair.
Correct.
I'm saying it's not very experimental in terms of like, okay, new tech.
Correct.
Is what I feel, but your experience could be different.
No, I believe that's what is happening in India at least, because people see older architects have a set way of doing their things.
Correct.
Right, and which is proven to them.
Correct.
No, up until today, they have been doing these things, and which were the A game in the industry for several years.
Correct.
But now, when things are changing, when technology is developing at such a pace, I think that's where these guys are not able to cope up with technology. They are not able to understand what is the sort of transformation, what is the level of transformation these technologies are bringing into the entire industry.
Yeah, that being said, I think there's also like, because this is a transformation phase, right? We are already not on the other side. We are just starting, right? So people first is not understanding. Even customers are also not understanding that much. So architects don't want to push right now. The problem is you will get to the other side and then you'll be like, now I should have done this like 10 years back.
Correct. It's always that case, right?
Yeah.
Like whoever adopts first, he is the winner.
Correct.
So
But
even
then,
in case of internet, if you see, like Amazon, Google, they adopted very fast. So that's why
Correct.
they are
Correct.
there right now.
Correct.
So architects who would adopt all of these technologies today are going to be the architects of future. Like tomorrow, there are going to be colonies designed on Mars, right? If you don't have these kind of technologies, how are you going to visualize what's happening there?
Correct.
If you don't have simple physics, like what is the sort of gravity on Mars, if you can't simulate that, how are you going to design for Mars?
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, simulation, configurators, artificial reality, or like augmented reality, virtual reality, and like all of these are enabling tools, right, for us to understand anything which can even come, like to fathom anything which is not reality right now.
Absolutely.
And that's very important also from the sustainability point of view, right?
Correct.
Don't you think?
Correct.
Because we already know the kind of impact this kind of data can make, understanding like the data itself.
I agree.
But right now the way we are working here is what I see, and I'm again not generalizing, seeing 100% on everybody's doing this, but most of the experiences, maybe 75% has been that. And I've seen like people now who have been like maybe graduating last 5 to say 10 years, their mind change, like shift has been very different. Like they are more of collaboration based architects. They're very up for like, imagine like us only, is like we have a talk and we're like, okay, I think here we can make something really cool together and stuff like that, right? So things are changing, but the older people are just not, I feel, and this could be very personal experience, and that's why I'm being like very rigid on that they're not trying to evolve, but the kind of tech or like the understanding of the material these guys have is brilliant.
Absolutely.
The moment these two merge together, it can create such a beautiful future, but that's where the problem is, I feel, like bottleneck, right? Like imagine Earth and like solutions made by Earth or mud are so hyped up abroad.
Correct.
And we have those tech here.
Correct.
Right. The same thing if we implement all the tech we speaking about or like talking about right now, I mean, that could change it into another set of, I'm not even sure about the word, but you know.
I think the industry in all is changing. It's it's growing very rapidly. In fact, you can see these digital 3D printers which are printing out Earth.
Correct.
Which is so sustainable. Now, I'll tell you just one project that I've done in BIM. What we did is we created the entire project in BIM and we handed out iPads to site supervisors. There was no paper used in that project. And it was a 2.5 million square feet project.
Correct.
So you can imagine the impact because these small tools, you have multiple drawings.
Yeah.
Like R1, R2, R3, there are multiple revisions. Sometimes those revisions don't reach the site, right?
Correct.
And then things are built in a different way. Then you have to again break them down.
Correct. And the amount of sheets you're printing, like that's just being one small impact of this big tech.
Correct.
Right. The similar thing is done in Barcelona as well, wherein like these guys scan the whole place. This is like majorly like big scale project they're talking about. And understand what's going wrong on the side. There are robots which go scan and like overlap it to your BIM model and stuff. So that being a bigger impact, but a smaller impact also like the papers which you're not printing anymore, right? I see people printing at least hundreds and thousands of paper before every submission.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you have another physical copy which you keep, and there's another copy which goes to the client and whatnot, and thousands of things.
Absolutely.
And which can just be cut down to zero. It's not needed at all, right? You have everything online.
So
you have big screens.
Personally, I don't use paper anymore. Like everything is digital. Even my notes are taken on an iPad. Right?
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
So for me personally, I have gone all green because I don't want to use paper anymore.
Oh God, this term green again is like a tick in my brain. you know why? Because like the way we've used this in our industry,
that's true.
Greenwashing has been the major thing.
Correct.
I have, and not even kidding, I have seen people being like, okay, green facade, and it's all green painted to like these flower, like the plants which are plastic.
Artificial plants, yeah.
And you're like, it wasn't about the green color, guys. Like, let's focus on the main impact which we are creating. But
absolutely,
yeah,
I think these sort of malpractices are going on in the industry, and it at the end it comes down to the ethics. What is the sort of work ethic that you are carrying? What is the sort of character you have in terms of, see, as an architect, it's very important. The role that you are playing is very, very important in the entire ecosystem of Earth. If you can actually, I think that's a separate topic about sustainability that we can cover all together. But there are so many things about that as well.
Correct. I think it's more about being conscious than anything else. About like your own setup and how you're doing anything, and even about like a person who's consuming it, of like what I am doing on a daily basis, right? That becomes the point. Like just me being aware of where is my table coming from, where's my chair coming from, where's my, how did my house get built, right? What's the embodied energy carried by everything? And it's so crucial to understand all of this, because every small things now we've seen with like the kind of heat we are surrounded with, and it is making a big impact. So the way we see it is like, okay, there's a 2-degree shift, right? 2 degrees of heat increase, but 2 degrees is the average of everything, right? Which we are not understanding. So there's a shift for 12 degrees also somewhere.
Correct.
Here in Bangalore in last 5 years, I think it's gone from 28, 32, I think 37, 38 this year, which is a massive leap in past 5 years. So imagine if this is the kind of, impact, the kind of graph we are looking at, this, I think we'll just burn one day and like get cooked or something, you know. But yeah, I mean, really insightful conversation.
Absolutely.
Got to know a lot about AR and VR, and looking forward to doing a project together. Yeah,
I would love to.